is seen as this very necessary thing that you must be doing to prevent your children from having negative outcomes. It was often talked about as a way of actually loving your child. My son plays travel baseball, and I love to just get to know the other parents. And the other day, I was at one of his practices, and I saw a group of moms kind of sitting together, and they was talking. But I was like, oh, I can't wait to kind of get to know them. So I walked over and just kind of introduced myself and made small talk, asked about, which son is yours, and told them which kid was mine, and just kind of got to know them, how long they've been with the team. After the small talk kind of died down, it seemed like they jumped right back in the conversation they were having, and they were talking about spanking. And they were adamant that spanking was a necessary parenting tool that was required. And they felt as if parents who don't spank didn't care enough about their children and were setting their children up for the worst outcomes. Being raised in an African American household, I totally understood it. I understood where they were coming from and what they were feeling. And I was kind of hoping that maybe we can save this conversation for another time. But sure enough, they turned to me and was like, what do you think? Little Larry's such a well-behaved kid. What do you think? And of course, I'm like, well, I don't practice any spanking or hitting in our house. And I don't believe it's the best thing for children. And in the event that I do get too upset or overwhelmed, I'm going to choose away from it. And if I do, I'm apologizing. This isn't what I choose to do and see as a positive thing. You would have thought, the shock and disbelief that they showed towards me, that it just was like, oh, like, what? What do you mean? How are you going to raise him? All of a sudden, they were very overwhelmed with what I said. I literally was just like, took the time to just kind of educate them. The point of the story is just kind of explain just how many parents absolutely see hitting and spanking as a normal and necessary part of their parenting. And I get it. I simply get it. I did not experience judgment or frustration with these parents because I understood it. I grew up in an African American household, and in the African American community, spankings are just generally very normal. In a lot of rural communities as well, it's seen as this very necessary thing that you must be doing to prevent your children from having negative outcomes. It was often talked about as a way of actually loving your child, is that you need to hit them. And I'll say this, and I know some people might not like this, but I understand why parents think it is a necessary thing. For one, in the short term, it works. I can get my children to do something if I use fear. And what hitting does is such negative reinforcement, negative feedback that, yeah, I will be scared to disagree with you or go against you in this moment. But the question we have to ask ourselves as parents is, are we focused on short-term pleasure or short-term benefit? Or are we raising them to be thriving adults? If our goal is thriving adults, the research should be very concerning to us. Stacy Patton is a well-known researcher at Howard University who wrote a book called How Whooping is Not Going to Save the Black Community. If you haven't read that book, I encourage you to do so. She presented her research that showed that 80% of African American parents believe that spanking is a way to take care of their children. But she showed how actually the outcomes and the research is clear that the opposite is true. Actually, what you find is that long-term prison sentences and physical violence is higher for children who experience spankings as a child. So instead of trying to just get children to do what we want them to do, we want to focus on what are the adults we want them to be. Do we want them to, when they're frustrated, lash out in anger and hit? Do we want them to come up with creative ways to deal with frustrations or to guide their own children? Those are things we want. And so when it comes to the question of spanking, what we want to simply focus on is our long-term goals instead of simply stopping with getting our children to do what we want them to do.